Here's what it means. This expression is trying to tell us that when we try to improve on something, we do not need to reject the entire idea or the entire practice. We must select to replace what is bad, but keep what is good. You see, in this expression, the bath water is probably bad, but the baby must be kept. And here is an interesting explanation of how this expression came about. Today in Singapore, we have plenty of waters to take a bath or shower. But in medieval times, especially in colder climate, water may be scarce. A bath consisted of a big tub filled with hot water. And because not everybody can jump into the bathtub at the same time, people will have to take their turn. Who got the first turn? The man of the house had the privilege of the nice, clean water, the first person. And then the next would be the other sons and the other men. And then the women would have their turn. And finally, the children. Last of all were the babies. Now, I found that difficult to believe. Baby was the last. By then, the water was so dirty, you could actually lose someone in the water. Cannot see anymore. And hence the saying, don't throw the baby out with the bath water. Now, the expression may be humorous, but for me, it serves as an eye-opener for what is happening to our society and the role of the church to address the signs of its time. When I first heard this expression, I had such a cringe out of the image of a baby being thrown away with the bath water, no matter how accidental the act may be. I don't believe it could be accidental, and that's probably why I have the cringe. Many years earlier, I had similar experience, not of an expression, but out of a lullaby. I had the same feeling when I heard Rockabye Baby introduced to me by an elderly lady in Nova Scotia. At first, I laughed when she sang it because I thought that she may not have a high education. For me, I honestly believe she had mistaken the words. Are you familiar with this lullaby? Yes, many of you probably are, but some of you may be not because I was not familiar with it. Are you familiar? Yes? Oh, well, most of you are. Never mind, I will sing short verse. It goes like this. Rock-a-bye baby in a treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. When the bow breaks, the cradle will fall. And down come the baby, cradle and all. What a cruel thing, eh? Listen to that last line. Down come the baby, cradle and all. I remember telling her, this lady, that any baby listening to that lullaby would wake up with a start and would never be able to sleep again afterwards. And I'm glad I didn't have that lullaby when I was a baby. I remember telling her that. You see, because I was not used to the idea of cruelty to babies. They are fragile beings and have to be protected. Whatever is happening with this culture that treats cruelty to babies with such cold indifference, I thought. Well, the answer came soon. When the university chaplain at that time showed us, the students, photos of dead babies thrown into garbage bins. I remember it was a black plastic bag, with full of dead babies, the result of abortion. My eyes were opened to the realities of our present world. That was in the late 1970s, about 30 years ago, when I was a newly baptized Catholic. It is now almost 2,000 years since Jesus commissioned his disciples, "Go out to the whole world, proclaim the good news to all creation. He who believes and is baptized will be saved. He who does not believe will be condemned." The world we live, brothers and sisters, have changed a lot since 2,000 years ago. And the church continues to answer the needs of its time. By now, I think there would be very few places in the world that has not heard of Jesus. Missionaries have evangelized to all the corners of the world. The nature of mission work has taken new forms, trying to answer emerging needs. And if we are willing to open our eyes and our ears, there are many, many needs around us. I would mention only a few, only three, that I find more urgent and more basic. The first is about unity. The recent visit of Pope Benedict to Great Britain shows me that he is also a missionary. In his diplomatic way of culminating the visit with the beatification of John Henry Newman, an English thinker, author, leader, and convert to Catholicism from Church of England, who became a cardinal, it was his effort to proclaim the true gospel of unity and universality. Remember, Catholic means universal. The Holy Father spoke in many different places, in churches, in universities, in Westminster Hall, in parks in Glasgow, London, and Birmingham, and even in castles, in the presence of the Queen, the Prime Minister, and ex-Prime Ministers, lawmakers, and students. The Pope didn't waste any time to proclaim the truth. And most of his audiences, I believe, were not Catholic. They were Anglicans. He did not hesitate even to mention those Catholics who suffered martyrdom in England, often for the defense of the office of Peter, papacy. Among others, he mentioned St. Thomas More and St. Thomas Becket. Throwing the baby with the bathwater. Brothers and sisters, with more tolerance in the world for diversity, let us not throw away unity. The second one is about priesthood. Another urgent need in the provision is the provision of priests as agents of sanctifying and sacramental graces in the church. I would like to quote from the late Father John Hardon, Jesuits, who said this: "How happy I am to tell you, so many of my fellow Jesuit priests were killed at the altar in the 16th century by the so-called reformers. There was no Protestant Reformation. There was only a Protestant Revolution. They were murdered at the altar because, as we believe, Jesus continues to offer the same sacrifice he offered on Calvary. He died only once on the cross, but in every sacrifice of the Mass, made possible only through the priesthood, Jesus communicates the graces that he won for us by his death on Good Friday afternoon." Now, many of us probably do not know that many Catholic priests were killed during the time of the Reformation because the Catholic Church still believed of the real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist, while the Reformers, the Protestants, do not believe so. Father Hardon also points out the root of the declining vocation. And here vocation can be marriage, can be religious or priesthood. He said this: until we rediscover the true meaning of love, which gives itself to the one it claims to love, we shall continue trying to promote vocations. But the real need is to promote commitment, because people are now having such difficulty in committing ourselves. It affects vocations. Priests and religious, no less than married people, must be taught and trained in the true meaning of love. Brothers and sisters, throwing the baby with the bathwater. By gaining more freedom in the world, let us not throw away commitment. The third one is about secularism. Our Pope denounces one prominent vice of our time that he calls false secularism. Secularism was in fact a good effort to address the often confused issue of clerical function and political function, and it was often misused. The purpose of healthy secularism, then, is to reserve the state and the political sphere its rightful autonomy, but accepts the Church's right to express its moral teachings. True secularism still recognizes the authority of the Church to teach in the aspect of morality. False secularism, on the other hand, has a narrow vision in understanding the separation between church and state, as prohibiting the Church from making its view known on moral issues. One effect of this would be in the banning of religious symbols from public places such as offices, schools, courts, hospitals, and prisons. Cross or crucifix would be banned. The Pope said that at the foundation of such a concept lies an a-religious or atheistic vision of life, thought, and morality, a vision in which there is no place for God. This is tantamount to dehumanization, and that is the danger. A process of stripping away human qualities such as denying others their individuality and self-esteem. It is throwing the baby with the bathwater. By having more independence in the world, brothers and sisters, let us not throw away humanity. While thinking that we are getting smarter, we are actually heading for our own destruction. So new millennium missionaries like ourselves, all here included, we need to address these issues. How does it make you feel? Here is what I feel. With all these heavy challenges facing us, still I do not despair. It helps me to see the urgency, but it does not make me worried or afraid. Why? Because I can see that it is a living church. Yes, the church will suffer, but it will not die. Just take a look at the fire of faith in Singapore.